Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all this afternoon? You good? Can you hear me? Oh, you're giving me a wave. I don't normally get that. I'm Gemma Greenwood. Thank you for attending this afternoon's session, which focuses on opportunities to grow the Middle East outbound cruise market. More than 27 million people are expected to take a cruise this year. That's according to data by Cruise Lines International Association, or CLIA, who are here with us today. While many cruises come from established cruise markets, the US and Europe, for example, strong growth is anticipated from emerging markets, which account for nearly 85% of the world's population. This includes the Middle East. With more ships sailing than ever before and new products and itineraries being introduced that appeal to a wider range of cruisers and travellers, there's never been so many opportunities to grow the Middle East outbound cruise market. So, how can we help the region's travel trade to sell it better? Our panel of experts here today have plenty of ideas. So let me introduce you to them. So sitting here next to me on my immediate left, we have Kerry Anastasiadis, and I'm really glad I only have to say that surname once. I hope I said it well. Kerry is the CEO of Cyprus-based Celestial Cruises, and since January 2017, he's been the chairman of Cruise Lines International Association for Europe. CLIA was established in 1975. It's the world's largest cruise industry trade association, and it's considered the sector's leading authority on policies, trends, and much more. Kerry is a highly experienced business leader, has held CEO and president positions with global names such as the Coca-Cola Company and Procter & Gamble. Welcome, Kerry. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Well, let's get a bit of energy in the room. Sitting next to Kerry, we have Kenny Picken. He is the president and CEO of Traveltech. Traveltech's a travel technology specialist that is known globally for its award-winning dynamic packaging and cruise packaging solutions. Traveltech recently opened an office in Dubai, recognizing a huge gap in the Middle East market for technology that helps travel companies here sell cruise better. Can we give Kenny a big hand? Come on. Thanks, guys. In the middle, we have Mohammed Saeed. He's the General Manager, Middle East for Royal Caribbean International, Celebrity Cruises, and Azamara Club Cruises. Mohammed has been a travel professional for the past 13 years, working for some of the region's biggest travel firms. And today, he is keen to share his insights and his tips on how agents in this region can boost their cruise sales. Please give Mohammed a warm round of applause. Now on to the ladies. Sitting next to Mohammed, we have Lakshmi Jarai. She is the CEO of Middle East cruise specialist Cruise Explore. Cruise Explore sells cruises to travellers from all over this region, directly and in partnership with the travel trades. Lakshmi, who's a regular Arabian travel market, has 29 years of travel industry experience, 20 of which have been spent selling and marketing cruise in the Gulf region. And last, but by certainly no means least, on the end there, we have Sabrina. Oh, sorry, we didn't clap. Lakshmi. Can't forget. On the end, thank you guys, Sabrina Badan. She's the Business Improvement Manager for Imagine Cruising, which is a provider of bespoke and tailor-made cruise holidays, has a big presence here in Dubai and is part of the Donata Group. Sabrina has more than a decade of cruise and travel industry experience, and today she's going to explain why the trade and consumer education is really key in this market, particularly given how many new-to-cruise travellers we have here. Please give Sabrina a warm round of applause. Thank you. So, let's get started. I'm going to come over here, sit down. I think probably the best place to start is with Kerry. As I said, CLIA, massive industry association, does a lot of in-depth research into the market. So I'd really like Kerry, first of all, to explain, to share some of your top-line findings from 2017, talking about some of the global cruise trends that we're seeing that are important.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Gemma, for inviting me. I think just to set the tone, we should put cruising in perspective of what it is that we actually do and what we represent in this landscape of vacations. I don't know if how many of you are aware, but 1.3 billion people go on a holiday every year. And that's going out on a holiday outside of their country. And out of that 1.3 billion, only 27 million people choose to go on a cruise. So in terms of proportion, the cruise industry is very small in the context of vacations, but it is the type of vacation that is enjoying the fastest rate of growth year on year. And in fact, the last 5 years, the cruise industry has grown globally by the order of 25%. And it is reflected by the confidence of the industry in that right now, as we speak, there are 96 vessels on order with the shipyards. And those 96 vessels, of those 96, 90 are of the size of 150,000 gross tons, which is 350 meters in length, and which effectively takes an average of 5,000 passengers per vessel. So it's really big, and that represents, frankly speaking, the interest of people to go on cruising. Now, as a consequence of that, what we need to do, to also put in the context is, well, all these cruise vessels, what do they represent? It's only 400 cruise vessels is the global fleet. So there's only 400 ships across this great planet. If you compare it to 50,000 cargo vessels, that again puts it into perspective of how small the cruise industry is. Those 27 million people that go on vacation are broken down by, as you said, different source markets. So if we look at which markets and which nationalities are the ones that embrace cruising the most, it happens to be the Australians. Australians have the highest rate of what we call penetration of population to cruises, followed by the US, and then the next market is China, which is growing extremely fast, then Germany, and then the UK, and everybody else. Now, again, to put it into perspective, let's leave China around because China is such a huge market. Yeah. But if you look at, if you look at Germany, if you look at Germany and the UK, the percentage of people that go on vacation in those countries on a cruise vacation isn't higher than 2% of the population. So, if anything, this is basically saying what a great opportunity there is to do on cruising. Additionally, 25 years ago, if you went on a cruise ship, the likelihood of you meeting young people on a cruise ship was infinitesimally small. It was usually, you used to go on a cruise, and if you were in the cruise business, you'd say, I wonder how many people are going to die on me. Because it used to be for retirees, and because it used to be expensive, and it used to be for retirees. Things have changed phenomenally. Today it is not for retirees. Today it is for all ages. And in fact, the bigger the vessels become, what we find the attraction of cruising is that you have cross-generation. So it's actually, and I think of the Middle East, it's actually very interesting because you can actually get a whole cross-generations from grandmothers, grandfathers to grandchildren traveling, taking a cruise, being on one of these ships, but being far away from each other, not to get into each other's nerves, and getting together to have dinner. So young kids can go and do their skiing or whatever it is they want to do. Parents can go and do their shopping and relaxing, and the grandparents can do whatever it is on a ship, which can cater for everybody's demand and enjoyable. What is also very interesting is that the duration of a cruise, if you look at you have different types of cruises. The average length of a cruise is about 7 days globally. But you have cruises that go 14 days, and you have cruises as low as 3 and 4 days. So if you looked at the cruising out of the US, out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale to the Caribbean, you'd find quite a lot of 4-day cruises. And if you look at the average length of a cruise in Europe, the average length is 7 days. If you look at the cruising in Asia, in China, that's also 7 days. And here again, you need to be careful of how you make cruising attractive to people. You really have to understand the person. For example, Chinese people. Chinese people do not enjoy sun tanning. They don't. So they go on a cruise ship not to sit around the pool, but they go on a cruise ship because they want to visit as many places as possible. So an itinerary that has many destinations in 7 days has more appeal to Chinese people than it does to others. Whereas if you find people from Northern Europe, their choice is slightly different. They really enjoy the sun, so they don't mind sailing at sea the whole day and soaking up the sun. So it's different.
Yeah.
You know? So, and what you'll find is that the cruise lines now have a host of brands. So you have the Carnival Corporation, which is the largest company in the world, followed by Royal Caribbean, followed by Norwegian Cruise Line, etc. And under those companies, you have different brands, different ships, different identities, and they will provide a different product. And finally, to close off, just to show you what cruising is so different, that the fastest growing type of cruising that we have right now is expedition. So if you look at expedition ships, and those are the ones that go to Antarctica or up to the North Pole and Greenland, etc., they are the ones that are growing the fastest in terms of sheer growth, percentage growth. The types of ships are very much smaller. You're talking about a ship that's no more than 300 passengers, and it's really made for expedition. It isn't the comfort, it is the adventure. So I think that puts a spin on what cruising is about. I hope I've provided the
fantastic, really good overview. Good. Thank you. Kenny, now, bearing in mind what Kerry has just said, make sure I get the names right, your clients are now all over the world. Interesting what Kerry said about Australia. You've got Flight Centre in Australia, haven't you?
Yes.
Bearing in mind your client base now, what kind of booking trends are you seeing through the trade, and how do they reflect what Kerry said, or maybe not said? What are you noticing trend-wise? What's really obvious about the market as it stands today?
I think maturity and evolution is really what we're seeing in the booking trends. So, of course, as Kerry had alluded to, it used to be regarded as an older generation activity, but now you've got phenomenal ocean ships which are really catering. They've got theme parks, activity, climbing walls, etc. I believe there's even pitch and putt, and I've read somewhere that we're going to see pony trekking on a cruise ship.
Pony trekking on the ship?
Absolutely. So, if you look at one of the Royal Caribbean ships, they built the inside like Central Park.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So they're really trying to appeal to the family market in that particular brand. But then, as Kerry also said, the expedition cruising growing, I think that's an evolution of the industry, because gingerly people will try the first cruise. The number of people I've met that have said, I don't know about being cooped up in a boat for 7 days. And then when they go on the cruise and they take the experience, they absolutely love it. And they become, serial cruisers, which isn't a bad thing. You can be serial something else, but serial cruisers, that's a good thing, especially for the industry. But what we've seen as well is, of course, you cater for your families and take them on a cruise, and you will want to broaden their horizons. You'll take your children on the ship for fun, but also to other ports, and you're visiting other countries and experiencing other cultures. So what we've seen, and we did conduct a survey actually of all of our clients, and we found that 26% of all first-time cruisers, so that's not 26% of all bookings, but those clients which booked a cruise for the very first time, actually packaged a cruise with other elements. So they took, for example, a flight, maybe a few days. If it was a Caribbean cruise, they might have taken a few days in the US, or if they were flying into the US and out of South America, which you can do, extending their holiday by a few days. And when you think about that, it's a phenomenal opportunity to not only experience the cruise in itself, but also to use that opportunity to experience other cultures in a more detailed way. So not only are you giving your kids fun, you're also, as Kerry had said, you've got activities for the children to keep the parents in the fine dining restaurants and enjoying themselves, time away from the children. But also you're then taking your children into spending a bit more time in other climates and other cultures. And I think that's immensely valuable. And nobody has actually talked about value, because cruise is an amazing value proposition. It used to be expensive. You have to look now, it's amazingly cheap.
Yeah.
You can do 7-night cruises in the Caribbean for $200-300. I mean, it's insane pricing, and the quality is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I'd say evolution in the industry, definitely. River cruising, you used to get lots of couples wouldn't take a fortnight's break, or they would supplement their annual holiday calendar by taking a city break. Well, actually now you can do a city break on a river cruise ship, and some of them are fascinating. Real good quality ships, and you're going right into the city centres, metropolises of these countries that you're passing through. So the variety is phenomenal, and just packaging that up, we're seeing much more growth from certainly the demand from our own clients anyway.
I'm going to come on to the Middle East specifically with you guys at the end, so hang in there. I just want to ask Kenny one more question. Just talking about some regional trends. Now, travel tech's been expanding quite a lot over the last 18 months, going into Asia, Middle East, more in the Americas, but I'm particularly interested in Middle East, obviously, and Asia.
Yes.
Why is now the time right? Why have you seen the opportunity in these markets?
Well, I see the Middle East really as an emerging market, certainly from the cruise perspective. But when you look at the cruising demographic, they're like peas in a pod. We're all the same people. We all are going to enjoy almost, if you like, the same leisure activities. There'll be variances, cultural differences, but in the main, it's all the same. So what we're seeing in the Middle East, of course, is the desire and hunger to build really outstanding cruise ports. So right from the very moment, you're going to experience a real quality experience. And then it's a fantastic hub to go and explore the rest of the world.
Yeah, with Emirates and the connectivity it has,
If we look at what Emirates, Etihad, Qatar Airways have all achieved by creating these central hubs, why not do the same for cruise? And that's the evolution of the cruise industry. So it has been quite challenging because as we come into the market, I think some of the more traditional cruise retailers are not really understanding what we're trying to do. So we've found that in the regional and emerging markets, and particularly in the Middle East, there is a tendency to appoint general sales agents. So whenever we approach the general sales agents with the opportunity to reach out to a bigger audience, either online or by using our packaging technology, we're met with some suspicion that we're possibly trying to do damage or take away the GSA status. And really nothing could be further from the truth. The opportunity exists, and I don't want to be pushing my technology, but it is designed for a general sales agent to be able to reach a wider audience and to take advantage of the current market trends of this growing desire to package cruise with other products. So, in all the products that we've sold in almost all the countries, we've actually faced all of these challenges. So going to Australia, we were actually met by Carnival Corporation with a legal challenge. I can quote you an unnamed person that worked for Carnival who said, there are 4,000 travel agencies in Australia and we have to look after them like their family. And you boys coming in here and selling cruises online isn't something that we really want to support. And that was astonishing.
Yeah.
And as we went, so for example, yes, we had Flight Centre as a client and Hello World as well, which between them represent a very large proportion of the Australian market. By digging in and having various meetings, we actually became the partner of choice for the Carnival Corporation.
So it turned it around when they
Absolutely.
understood what you did, yeah.
Yes, they
Yeah.
recognised that we were not taxing their support in any way, because we handled it all, and we were widening the potential for distribution.
Yes, yeah, widening the
which is
reach.
exactly what everybody wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course my argument was you have to protect the ma and pa 4,000 travel agencies by giving them the tools
Yeah.
to go out and compete against, and they do have it in Australia, they have it in South America, they have a lot of the US big online OTAs coming into the market and selling cruise in the region from the US. So we're actually, if anything, the GSA and the travel agents' friend.
Yeah, you're the enabler.
The enabler, yes.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So I think that's been the challenge, is
Yeah.
to get that message across.
Okay. Right, moving on to you guys. I haven't forgotten you. Mohammed, so can you tell us a little bit more about, and I'll ask you guys the same question as well, the trends we're actually seeing out of this region, the growth of cruise, who's travelling from the region on cruises, is it changing, and what do they want? Mohammed.
Well, just to follow on Kenny as well, like he mentioned that every brand represents a different message and has different product. Middle East is it's all about families, and they do travel in groups, if you may say.
Yes.
So with our brands, Royal Caribbean Cruises is family focus, and we have the latest hardwares and the largest ships. We actually now have Symphony's almost 7,000 passengers. It's a city at sea.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're seeing the destination is very popular. Europe has been a destination for the summer,
Right.
for the Middle East and the
So
GCC.
do you think Europe's number one still? Yeah.
Definitely still
Yeah.
Europe being number one, followed by
Kerry's happy.
followed by the U.S. and the Caribbean.
Right.
And then we're seeing, but I mean, with Europe, there's a lot of itineraries. There's the West Med and the Eastern Med as well,
Yes.
Northern Europe. And then you have a niche market that does Alaska.
Right.
With the smaller ships, you're getting a more of a mature cruisers who have done cruise before, going into the destinations, similar to river cruises, South America, exotic destinations in Asia.
So you're starting to
etc.
see that the market is maturing. They're wanting different destinations, more adventure.
I mean,
travel.
we've been knocking on doors since '97. So
Yeah.
and then next we know it's been a long time in the Middle East, just to raise awareness and go beyond the typical destinations. But still, I mean, the trend is Barcelona, Rome, the big home ports for Europe. The Mediterranean is the way to go every summer. So we're happy. I mean, we have the latest hardware there, and we're ready to have more. So.
And are they starting to package it together? Are they just doing the cruise, or are they starting to add on and do other things as well?
And I mean, with the help with our trade partners, of course. I mean, we're seeing that nobody goes just for a week to travel 6-7 hours out of this region to stay for a week. So it's always being bundled pre and post, but they see the opportunity of, like we said, experiencing the destinations while on a cruise with one single price, rather than going through packing and unpacking once, activities on board, the culinary experience on board, sustainability, wellness. I mean, the cruise have evolved substantially in the last few years, and to provide everything on board from experience, a complete vacation, and then now when people get off the ship for the few hours, going into key destinations and choosing either heritage, history, and culinary.
So very much the experiential travel trend that we're seeing dominate.
And then they move forward after. I mean, once you get off the ship, they're doing their lands, and I mean, some stay for a few more days and they're back. But yeah, I mean, on average, it is a 2 weeks 20
Yeah.
days, I would say, within in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lakshmi, what are your findings? Same as Mohammed? Anything different? Anything about ships or cabins, types of cabins or experiences that you're witnessing? Because you've had a lot of experience over many years.
I know,
And it's
I know,
changed
yeah.
dramatically, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I have to say that we have been seeing the cruise trend since the last 20 years. And the way it started, of course, it was more to do with everybody wanted to do the Barcelona 7-night cruise.
Yeah.
But I have to say the trend is changing and there is more awareness. And as Kerry mentioned, it's not a very huge market. We still have like a 0.2% of even that small cruise, like out of the 27 million, we are like 0.0%. So very small market it is. But the way it has grown, initially people, they just asked for, okay, the 7-night cruise out of Mediterranean, that was been the cruise that everybody wanted to do because it goes by word of mouth. If one does that, then everybody wanted to follow the same.
Yes.
But we see like over the last 3-4 years, we see the trend has been changing and people ask for river cruises and there are people interested in river cruises and ultra luxury brands. Ultra luxury brands are doing very well. Actually, people want like, there are different cruises. That's one of the messages I wanted to say, that cruise is not something which is one size fits all. There is different cruise for different people. How you cannot put, like the hotels are different. You don't put all the customers in one hotel. You choose whether they want a beach resort or whether they want a business hotel or whether they want it inside the city. Same way the cruise is completely different. Each cruise line is different. Some cater to the families with a lot of kids activities and everything like Royal Caribbean, but the ultra luxury brands are very sophisticated and it caters to people who want a relaxing vacation, who doesn't want kids around. So there are different kind of cruises and people have to, the travel agents have to be really educated so well to choose the right cruise for the right customer, which is very, very important, because if you put a person in a wrong cruise, then they are not going to be repeat. We have an excellent repeat percentage of more than 40%, but we will be damaging that percentage if we don't put the right person in the right cruise.
Sure.
So we feel that it's very important for this market to learn that there are varieties of cruises for different type of customers and cater to the right people, the right cruise. And choices, plenty of choices now. Across the world, more than 280 destinations the cruises sail from, and there are each cruise line, there are like 50 plus cruise lines, and each cruise lines have got 20 plus ships, and so there are plenty of options at sea. So there is, and this market is still growing, it's very small, and then we have a lot of opportunities to grow the market and cater to different people actually.
Now, it's interesting to talk about education because I know that's something that Sabrina was quite keen to get across today, about awareness and educating the trade and the consumers about cruise, because as we've heard, it is so different today. There's loads of choice. It's not just for old people, not just for families, it's for everybody. Sabrina, what can you tell us more about, the direction it's heading in and what we should be doing to grow the market out of this region?
Well, I'm in agreement with a lot of what's been said here today. Like Lakshmi said, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And there's a lot of stereotypes, which I think Kerry touched upon as well, in that cruising is for the older generation. And this region is quite a young region. I think it's 50% of people in Dubai are aged 18 to 35. So how do you get across to them that really it isn't for the older market, it is for the younger market? You do have flow riders and, all these 10-story high slides and, ice bars and all sorts of things on these ships. It almost sounds a bit too, almost good to be true sometimes. In terms of education, we tend to send a lot of our staff abroad so they can sort of experience and try and give that first-hand knowledge to the customer.
Does that include your staff here as well?
Yeah. Staff here at the moment are on the Meraviglia in the Western Mediterranean. We've got people in Australia and Victoria Falls. So we do tend to send a lot of our staff away because people buy people, don't they? So if they've had that experience, it comes across a lot better. And if you can answer that question more personally and say, well, when I was on the ship, it just sort of helps the customer understand. But one of the things that would almost help education, we feel, is if more of the sort of the newer ships were in this region, because it's quite exciting when some of the larger, newer ships that you see advertised come into town, and you can see them from Dubai. And I mean, I've been on the ships when they come in, and it's amazing sort of the reception that they get locally. So maybe 3, 4, 5 night cruises that tie in with the holidays more locally, and it's almost, again, as much as people buy people, they buy their own peers and friends even more so. So if your friends or family join that ship as like a toe in the water, it's not too risky because you're not flying 7 hours to the Mediterranean. It may well then allow you to think, actually, that wasn't what I expected. The value for money was amazing, and I am prepared to go to sort of Alaska or the Mediterranean or Caribbean and what have you. So, I mean, 70% of our bookers are new to cruise, so it is
17 or
no 70.
70, right? That's huge.
90% of our inquiries are new
So
to
that just
cruise.
shows you the potential
Yeah.
then.
So
yeah.
you do need to
Yeah.
have that understanding of the customer. Like Lakshmi said, if you put them on the wrong ship, they'll never cruise again.
Yeah.
So it's damaging.
It's got to be right the first time.
But it's also, it's their experience as well. It's their holiday. A holiday is quite aspirational for most people. So if you take that time out and make sure that you get it right, you do have a customer for
Yeah.
life almost.
And in this region, particularly if they have a good experience, they're going to tell everyone else.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mohammed, what do you do about educating staff and the trade and making sure, there's more awareness about product and trying to mix it up, telling them, Europe's great, but there's other places you can go to and there's other ships and there's more out there. What do you do in that respect?
I mean, exactly. I agree with Sabrina. And it's basically once we usually have ships in our backyard, and a celebrity cruise ship was actually in Abu Dhabi recently as well. And Royal is actually bringing a ship back in 2019 back into Dubai, thank God. So having a ship in the backyard is first-hand education that we can bring as many trade agents and trade partners on board to showcase the product. And we're actually now trying to go beyond that as well, to go on a shorter segments, 1 or 2 nights, just to get a local taste. And that's exactly what, someone who needs to experience it. Imagine, they've done the initiative themselves, and they actually invest in sending their team abroad. And we appreciate their support, and because they go across all of our brands. And because it is, the front lines, if they experience it themselves, they're going to be passionate about telling that story again and coming in and selling it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they just see it in the brochures or they see it online, it doesn't serve the same purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we take advantage as much as we can, creating those seminar at seas, we call.
Yes.
And so we do Asia destinations as well. And yes, Europe is popular, and but it's seasonal. And so we try as well to showcase our other ships as well on our different brands
and destinations.
and destinations.
Yeah.
We also have local workshops, and we do breakfast seminars in our trade across all the clients and stuff like that. So the trade exhibitions as well, and the trade events across the GCC. We help educate all the time, and so we're always delivering these messages. But the key is getting everyone on board as we hope.
Yes,
so,
Well, this brings me to my next question. So, what I'd like each panelist to do is to identify, hopefully each one different, what they think is the biggest opportunity here in terms of growing the cruise market. I'm going to start with you, Kerry. We're going to move along, in fact. Sabrina, you get time to think.
The question is the biggest opportunity in the Middle East or generally?
To grow a Middle East outbound cruise. One thing, one aspect, what would be the focus?
I think specifically for the Middle East, I would say that the ability to have the whole family traveling together is the one that has to be really pushed and create the awareness.
And the value for money.
Obviously the value,
alongside
because you
that.
have the whole family, but it's the whole family together, generations. I think that makes a lot of sense for a Middle Eastern market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kenny?
Well, in the Middle East, as Mohammed and Kerry have said, families is the biggest concentration. So I think I've already alluded to it. The reality of it is you can have a phenomenal value holiday in a really quality environment, take a cruise to certain destinations, so enrich your family's life, especially the children, perhaps package it with, let's say for instance, a safari in South Africa, take your kids along, show them the lions, the tigers, the monkeys, let them really embrace the travel aspect. And essentially what I do with our staff, we've got lots of young university graduates that work with our company, and we send them all over the world to see our customers. Why do we do that? Because it's life enriching, and that's what cruise does. It enriches your life and actually gives you a whole load of fun as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't think you can have any more compelling reason to travel than that.
Mohammed, outside of families, what about millennials? Because young population, it's family dominated. How can we get younger people cruising?
Well, we have already, and by providing the experience on board that is, and the technology as well, sustainability, the wellness, we're speaking their message now. We're having that talk with the millennials and having them coming on. We actually have a lot of millennials coming on board now because some of them are thrill seekers. We deliver that message already with all the activities on board. People who are seeking wellness and fitness, we have those programs on board.
Yeah.
People who are into, all digital technology. We have bionic bars, which is a non-man handling electronic handle, just serving your drinks. So I mean,
I like that, bionic bar.
We have a bionic bar, and so we've done this. But I wanted to also add, I honestly believe this is to the trade network. Implanting a cruise specialist in your organization, and because the education that we can educate, but there's not a lot of us in the region, and that message can be lost next week. But having that person, that advocate, that ambassador in your organization,
good point.
that is always up to date, experience the brand, and going out there hand in hand with your marketing direction and strategies, you will definitely boost your cruise sales and you will bring that business because the demand is there. We've seen it, and we still believe obviously on the trade network because you are the educators, and the Middle East and the GCC families like the personal touch, the face-to-face, the concierge service. So that will still continue. Couple it with the technologies similar to travel tech. That is required because that will grow your network. I mean, technology and online is required. We believe in it.
Brilliant, thank you. Lakshmi, what do you think the cruise lines should be doing more to court this region? Because you deal with the cruise lines a lot, you've represented them. Should they be doing more to come here and get the word out? Where's the opportunity there? Kerry, you could answer that as well. Lucky Kerry.
First of all, coming to the opportunity, there are plenty of opportunity to grow the cruise market here because everybody takes a vacation. The July, August with the summer, everybody wanted to go out.
And we're not just talking GCC families, we're talking expats as well. We haven't even talked about the expat market.
Everybody living here, they have to get, they are taking a vacation anyway. So there are a lot of people who are doing a land vacation. So we would my recommendation would be to suggest cruise to those people who are doing a land vacation. Anytime people, when they are traveling every year, they need varieties. They need to do different things. So rather than selling cruises only to those people who are asking for cruises, try to convert people who are on a land package to a cruise vacation. By doing this, it's actually the cruise is
or
not
adding it on. Do both. Have a holiday and a cruise.
Have a holiday and a
Two
cruise.
holidays.
It's because they are going for more than a month. Actually, everybody takes a vacation not just for a week, and they go for 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So cruise is going to be a part of it. So introduce cruises into their package.
And of course, there's a lot of commission. We haven't even mentioned that.
It's a lot commission.
Loads of commission for travel agents.
And it's completely hassle-free. You sell a cruise, and everything is included. The amount of inclusions you get on a cruise is amazing. So it's really, it's going to be very easy. But you know that icebreaker kind of stuff, because they haven't sold cruise before.
Yes.
So the travel agents get a bit stiff about putting their first guest on board. So once they book, and I'm sure they'll be very, very comfortable. And as Mohammed was saying, that they should have a cruise specialist in the...
Yes.
Then my first point of like not one size fits all will be...
Yes, exactly.
done.
That will be sorted, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Kerry about the cruise lines again in a minute, but Sabrina
Coming
first.
to the cruise line, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You didn't...
I have to address that. You asked me, coming to the cruise line, what cruise lines can do. When we were selling it to the travel agent, to be very open with that, one big challenge that we face is the cancellation and the payment terms of cruise lines is not as flexible as the hotels. So they have the flexibility to cancel the hotel or change their plan much closer to their vacation, which is not the case with cruise lines. The payment policy and the cancellation policy is much advanced. So if cruise lines can come up with some flexibility on the payments and cancellation policy, I think that will be attractive, because as it is, it's a last minute market, and when the people plan, and not that everybody wanted to change their plan, but visas is a very big issue again here.
Yeah.
So if they don't get the visa, they are panic. So if we don't get the visa, if we book a cruise, we won't be able to change the plan. We get into penalty. Whereas if we do a land package, if it's a hotel, we can change it. But that flexibility is what I would say the cruise lines have to do. Then I'm not saying that to totally get rid of the cancellation policy and other things, but it has to be more flexible for people to consider cruise as an option. So that I think the cruise lines have to do something about the
Kerry, can that be done? I'll come back to you, Sabrina.
I guess anything can be done. The question is, should it be done?
Should it be done, yeah.
I think from a cruise line perspective, we need to realize that there's so much demand for cruising and there isn't enough capacity.
Yeah.
So we don't need to do that. With all due respect, we don't. That's number one. The second thing is that if you look at cruises, most cruise people are planned for their vacation, their cruise vacation, at least 18 months out. So if they're doing 18 months out, then they're ready to commit to that, and they don't.
So
need to do it.
this market needs to adapt to book earlier.
Well, that's one of the things. Get your thing now.
Yeah.
I think that's so. I think that's the reality now. Possibly as the cruise business grows and becomes bigger and bigger, there'll be more competition.
Sure.
And then we'll find ourselves in a situation where there'll be more flexibility on those things. In terms of what do cruise lines, how should they do their homework to make it more attractive? It comes down to having a really clear understanding of your product and what you're pitching. Now, I'll give you an example. I mean, our cruise line is not of the size of Royal Caribbean or Carnival. But we have decided that I think we're about the only company that focuses, majority of our business is 3 and 4 day cruises.
Right, okay.
And the 3 and the 4 day cruises is done where we provide people 2 destinations per day.
Right.
So if you want to taste Greece and you want to see the mainland and get a taste of the islands, there is no better way than to do it with us, together with a combination of land tour. So you come in, you fly in, you see Athens, you do your land tour, and then you do a 3 or a 4 day cruise.
Right.
And then you'll see, in that 3 day, you'll see Mykonos, Ephesus, Santorini, Heraklion, Rhodos, and Patmos. I mean, nobody offers you that, and then you can get a taste of that.
Yes,
so and it's very different to what everybody else does. So I think that cruise companies need to understand what it is that they do and how are they different in providing a choice.
Yep.
So you were saying, how do we attract millennials? We know that millennials like to party. Where do they want to go in Greece? They want to go to Mykonos and Santorini.
Yeah.
So we're the only cruise line that has actually got an itinerary where you can, not only do you visit the place, but you overnight in Mykonos.
Is it the party ship?
It isn't a party ship. You get off the ship and you party on the island.
Oh, good.
Which is even better.
That's even better. You don't want them on board.
No, absolutely not. So that's why I say, you have to really think of what it is that you offer. How do you fit in that landscape and go out and tell people?
Because not all cruise ships and companies are going to be right for this market necessarily.
Absolutely not.
Like for other
Absolutely
markets.
Not.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I think that's the way to do it.
Okay, Sabrina. Biggest opportunities, that you see, within your business and growing out of this region.
given, well, we looked at sort of the figures and things, and given what I mentioned earlier about a lot of our customers being new to cruise, and again, touching on Lakshmi's point, you do get people from different countries who need to apply for visas, and it can be a deterrent
yeah.
if it's something they're investing a lot of money in, something they may not be able to experience. So we can sell the dream, so to speak, but they may never get to actually enjoy it. Going back to the point I made, which I think Mohammed you touched upon as well, having the 3 to 4 day cruises, which the locals can experience, will almost, I mean, it's all well and good if somebody's inquiring about a holiday, but seeing that ship and having their friends talk about it means that they will actually, it'll kind of strike up the urge within themselves to even ask the question and speak to us. And, you know, we're sort of impartial, so we can talk to them and say, right, what holiday do you want for your family, and who's going, and what have you. But at least they can go somewhere that's almost on their doorstep without the worry of visas, without the worry of the financial obligation of a flight, or worrying about whether they'll be able to do that holiday. And then, I think that would be it, sort of having the shorter itineraries closer to home with the newer ships as well, so that they get to see all these things that we're talking about, rather than sort of going through the brochures.
And how are you going to, you talked about the new to cruise market, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
How are you going to maximise that potential? In addition to what you've just said, I mean, how can you kind of convert as many of those?
So if I go back to our, because we are global almost, so if I sort of go to our UK office, we get a lot of customers who are new to cruise, and they will try a 3-night cruise out of Southampton, which is the home port there, and then they'll say, great, loved it, and then they'll probably book a London to Sydney voyage, which takes about 45 days, you know. So
will they make that jump from what?
Yeah, because if they've enjoyed it, it's almost like they want to do it, but it's trying before you're buying.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's the case you could take customers on board, or potential customers, just for lunch on board, you know, so they don't have to go away as such, but they just see that, oh, actually, you do have swimming pools, you do have a gym, you do have a cinema, you do have all these areas.
Yes.
I'm not cooped up, because that's a lot of the sort of stigma as well, that they're going to be stuck on a ship. My other half says it to me all the time. I'm like, it's nothing like that. You know, you get to see so many places, but by seeing it in that way, in a very relaxed environment where you're not necessarily almost selling to them, you're just educating them, you kind of get their buy-in a lot more.
So really, the more ships we end up having here in Dubai, the more people can
newer ships,
see them, the better, really. And I guess obviously the cruise lines that are here, they're going to have that advantage as opposed to the ones that aren't. Yeah. Did you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, first of all, cruise lines love Imagine Cruising. You can imagine 70% new to cruise. That really, it just expands the growth trend. And one of the things that they're doing, they're using packaging technology, but actually amazing cruise knowledge. And they're theming your theming cruises, aren't you? I've seen cruises for Formula One events, concerts.
So being really creative,
imagine. So they're using a lot of imagination. And so you will get customers who will say, yeah, Formula One, I'd love to do that. And on a cruise, how's that going to work? So you're inspiring. And I think
makes a big difference.
There's lots of opportunities for the industry to do that. And I think Imagine personify that fantastically.
I'd like to add, I think that the cruise industry has a very interesting difference. The cruise ships that are being built today are actually a destination in itself.
Yes.
And yet it still takes you to destinations. So I think, whereas if you do anything else, you're actually going to a destination. And then you have other cruise lines where, by sheer size of the vessel, the cruise ship is not the destination is the hero. So I think that is a clear understanding that people have to realize, depending on what you want, that you can get it within the cruise. And then the other corollary of that is, so you arrive at the destination, okay? And then when you get to the destination, what do? So cruise lines are very good at providing excursions. But then again, what we are finding, cruise lines are finding, are because of the demographics and that you have different age groups, the chances are that if you're taking young teenagers, the chances of them wanting to go and see a museum, or so if they go to Familia to Barcelona, You know, do I really want to go to Familia Sagrada and stand in line to see an
With a
old building?
pushchair upstairs.
Probably not. You know. So I think that one of the cruise lines are increasingly having to do is to really understand what form of excursions, so essentially keeping people busy, which is broken down by age group, in order to make the extent beyond the ship, how do you make it
Yes,
interesting for
yeah,
people?
yeah,
So
yeah.
as you said, it might be providing, you know, you go to Italy and you arrive in outside of Civitavecchia, or you go up towards Venice. Is there a way that I can drive you down to Modena and take you to the Ferrari course, for
Yes.
example?
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, do young people really want to go and learn about wines and cheeses and things like that? Probably not. They want to eat it, but you know, so probably it's to go to see more fashion.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if I have young kids and they want to go to a Disney World or something like that, well, how many times do I want to see Mickey Mouse? You know, so I think that that's the issue. That's the issue that we have to deal with as cruise
Yeah.
companies. Is we have people on board for such a long time. We have to be able to cater to their
To all
interests
of them, yeah,
differently.
yeah. Thank you. I want to come back to what Kenny was saying about Imagine and how can we help the trade sell cruise better. And it does come down to the service and the creativity, but also married with the technology. Now, Kenny, I don't know if everybody in this room will actually understand where your company fits in terms of how your technology can really make life so easy for a travel agent to book cruise, so they can just focus on service and you guys do the rest.
Yeah, so I think we've touched upon it's very, very important to try and match your cruise audience with the right cruise line. That's an education which I think the cruise lines have to invest in, and ultimately that's them investing in their guests' joy and comfort. But what we've essentially done is we've taken all of the cruise line itineraries together and we present them in a very easy to search way. So we make the search process very simple, very intuitive. And equally, if you're going to be packaging, say for example, a flight to Barcelona from anywhere, it's very, very important that that flight arrives, giving you plenty of time to get to the cruise ship.
Yep.
So if you're not going to overnight in Barcelona, then you need to make sure that your flight is arriving in at least 6 hours before the ship departs. So our technology intelligently anticipates that. That's all built in, so there are safeguards. And what that really allows, and we have, of course, packaging with hotels, pre and post, events, excursions, tours, even insurance. And we essentially offer our technology to customers who are so our customers in the travel industry, who are very focused on packaging. And again, like Imagine, where they're actually putting together, I think you call them masterpieces. And
Cool.
yeah, they truly are very imaginative. So by packaging that together, it's fair to say that to create a cruise package, once you've even got the knowledge of where you want to put people and where to send them, you might want to translate that package over a number of sailings of a cruise line. So if you were packaging, for example, I'm just going to say with Princess Cruises that might fly out of the same port, cruise out of the same port for 6 months consistently, it means you can take that product that you've put together, and that's a travel industry expertise that we're expressing. So this is not technology telling the customer where to go and what to do. This is allowing the travel agency to flex their passion and expertise into a product that they've researched, they've looked at the hotels, they've stayed in the hotels, they've visited the resorts, and now they're going to use the technology to create that package and then cascade it across a number of other cruise sailings, which gives your customer, the ultimate customer, whether online or coming into the store, a phenomenal opportunity to say, okay, I love that cruise package, but actually I don't want to go in June, I want to go in October.
Yeah.
So I'll take that one. And then, of course, giving them the ability to flex the package to say, I don't want 2 nights before the cruise. Actually, I'd love to spend 5 days in Barcelona, and when I get off the other end in Civitavecchia, I want to go to Rome. So I'm going to have 3 days there. And our technology essentially puts that all together. And bearing in mind, as I've already said to you, or you pointed out, Flight Centre are a huge organisation, and they are renowned for bringing university graduates and college graduates into the store. When we first went into Australia, the cruise lines were terrified that they would have uneducated sales consultants putting the wrong people in the wrong ship. So we've tried to make the product as intuitive as possible so that that really can't happen.
Yeah.
And of course, supported by the great work that the cruise industry does, working with the travel industry, making sure that they get that message across.
Brilliant.
So.
Fantastic. I think it's a good opportunity to open it up to the floor. I see there's a gentleman with his hand up there. Can we have a roaming mic, please? Thanks, Charlotte. If you could say your name and who you're addressing your question to, can be more than one person, that would be fantastic.
Hi, my name is Joy. I want to ask Mohammed and Lakshmi, I mean, this maybe, what about cruises as, say, destination wedding or company get-togethers for 3 or 4 days? And I mean, it also gives them a taste of, what cruising is all about, but that opens up the market for you guys as well. What's the trend over here in the Middle East for something like that?
Okay. You want to take or
You
I'll
can,
take it? Yeah.
you can both answer.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Go ahead.
It's a good question. Actually, it's a good opportunity for us to say about the cruise is not just for holidays and leisure. It's for corporate, it's for group sailing, and it's weddings. So there are plenty of things you can do on a cruise other than just holidaying for a 7-night or a 10 nights or a 14 nights. So we do have, in case globally it's been happening a lot. MICE is a very strong industry, actually. From this market, it's growing. There is the people use it for meetings, and the good thing about using a cruise ship for MICE is you can nicely mix business with pleasure. So you can have a couple of days, but all the cruise lines are coming with good meeting facilities and everything. So you can have a couple of days of meeting and then a couple of days of shore excursion. So you can nicely mix business with pleasure. And coming to the weddings, and of course, destination weddings are becoming very, very popular. And cruise weddings also. Recently, there is a very big wedding that happened from Dubai, like a big group. So wedding on board is also getting very popular. It's a destination by itself. So it's very unique. Most of the cruise lines do weddings on board, and you have all the facilities of doing it with ease, actually. Very, very easy to do that because you don't have to arrange different things separately. Everything is with cruise lines and everything you do on the onboard. So you have, I would say, arranging a cruise on board is much easier than arranging a cruise on land, definitely.
Thank you. Mohammed, do you have anything to, oh, sorry.
Yeah, so
It is.
I mean, it is growing, and we've seen, like Kenny was saying, the message is, I mean, uniting the families, right, and having more of them on board, and this is exactly what the cruise lines are actually hoping for, and they're pushing. So having a post-wedding or a wedding reception or a reunion, this has been very common actually with us, and that's actually been driven by expat market and some of the reunions, yes, from GCC nationals, and the more the merrier is actually, and because they get to join, we cross-reference them on board, they get group activities on and off the ship. We provide a culinary experience as a group on board. When you talk about family or leisure groups, it's a great experience, and we've been capable for the past few years, and it is quite growing. And with MICE as well, I mean, we hope to continue to grow, but what serves us more, hopefully, when we have more ships closer to home, is when we're going to see a more of a drive. I mean, the visa restrictions and kind of probably slows down a lot of the pharmaceuticals or the technology companies sending a group abroad from multiple nationalities. But when we have a ship in our backyard, we definitely see that drive happen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did anyone else want to add to that before we...
I think the other perspective is that in order for MICE to be attractive to a company, inevitably it should be about a 3 or a 4 day cruise.
Correct.
Because a 7-day cruise just becomes too long and too expensive. So I
Sure.
think that one of the problems that the cruise companies have, as much as they want to attract this type of business, you don't, to actually have a MICE on a big ship of
Yeah.
5,000 people is impossible. So you have
Yeah.
to fit into a cruise itinerary. So then how many itineraries are out there that only offer 3 or 4 day cruises? Not
Yeah.
many.
Yeah.
And which areas? So I think, yes, it has great potential, but it is constrained by the nature of the itineraries and where they sail.
Lakshmi, here we've had examples where the ships come in and it's turning around, and then you've had like 1 day meetings in between passengers getting off and other passengers getting on, haven't you?
Yeah.
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 So that's
So that's
kind of
a-
short meetings where like that you can use the cruise ship while no one's on it.
The ideal thing,
idea.
the ideal thing is actually to put people on the ship and to actually go on a cruise.
Yeah.
Because as Lakshmi said, then the incentive to go on that particular thing. So, MICE, either you have a company deciding to take and have a product launch, in which case it will invite its agents or its distributors and sellers on the product so that it has the attention, or at the end of the year, as an incentive for achieving certain goals, you say, I will take you on a cruise and we'll go and see something different. I think that is where the huge opportunity lies.
Great. Thank you. Do we have any more questions? We've got like a couple of minutes to wrap up. One more. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alina. I'm a travel blogger from Romania. I would like to ask you, all of you, if working with digital influencers has helped your companies gain brand awareness and educating people what a cruise is.
Okay, let me. Undoubtedly, yes. I mean, we're living in the world of digital, social media, etc., etc. So it is inconceivable for us not to have bloggers and social media being part of this. As you can hear, there we are.
Don't go there yet. Stay here till we finish.
So that is inevitability. The one thing that I think everybody is finding out is that bloggers, not all bloggers are well intended. So the bloggings that goes out and happening, is it because they are interested in creating a following because they like something, or that they are making a following to promote themselves?
Yeah.
So I think that again is a danger of the inevitability of blogging. But simply stated, bloggers are hugely important for us.
Sabrina, with your masterpieces, I mean, they do sound like amazing packages you put together. Do you do any marketing around, with social media and bloggers or anything like that, or not?
Not with travel bloggers as such, but we do market. I mean, it's like Kerry said, it is the digital market that we live in. So Facebook, social media in general, just getting our word out there. The easiest way to see what we showcase. So, for example, this week we had a concert in Dubai with Elaine Page, who's sort of quite well known in the West End. But to actually see how intimate that concert was, the best way to showcase it is online with a video where it's streamed, and it kind of provokes that interest. And where people hashtag everything as well, you can sort of engage a market who perhaps wasn't looking at a cruise, but like Kenny said, F1. If you've got an F1 fan and they sort of see, there's you've got F1 people there who are seen in the media all the time, they're speaking to you like we are now, they're that close, that's kind of pretty impressive for someone who loves that industry. And then you can have a cruise too. It's definitely important to us.
I was asking I was asking because before becoming a serial cruiser, I am a travel professional also. I have an agency in Romania, and I found out that I can sell better if I experience myself. And I'm writing on my blog about our personal family experiences. I travel and I cruise with my kids. And I agree that a multitude of activities on board for all kinds of people, all ages, helps a lot. And the first cruise that we taken like 5 years ago, it was a short 7 nights in the Mediterranean, and we end up packaging 3 weeks in Australia or something like that. So it helps because I raised the awareness in Romania about cruising with kids.
Yeah.
And I think this is applied also to Middle East because they, I don't know how much the sales agents can tell the people and convince them to buy the cruises because they will not speak from their family perspective, only from their sales agent perspective.
That's what I want to respond to you.
we
Is
get
the same practice and that same model is actually growing now in the GCC. So we're having travel bloggers, who are travel professionals, backed up with their institution, and because you're bringing reality, you're bringing the experience and going on board, whether it's we're talking honeymooners or families, different age brackets, and that's definitely served them. So I will say continue with that because it's brilliant how, but you need to be up to date and you need to be current and always try to experience cruise and the product that is available. And then bring that message back, powered by your agency, definitely the right way of doing it.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this afternoon. So thank you very much all for coming here today. Please give our panellists a big round of applause for their time and effort today. Thank you. And I'm sure if you want to chat to them outside, ask them any questions, they'd be more than happy to chat to you then. But thank you for coming and see you again next year.